Some live pictures coming out from that minister corridor now. Apparently one of the ministers is already taking questions from the reporter, I've been told, as Minister of Education, Chen Baoshan. Let's listen in.
So when can we address the concerns? And the early end of school time has triggered a mushrooming of extracurriculum training institutes. How are you going to address the haphazard development of these extracurriculum training institutes? Thank you for raising such a very good question. Well, I think you represent the voices of the parents of the kids. Well, schools end at 3:30, and this has triggered a very difficult problem for parents in society. As China's economy develops and education initiatives advance, this is a very special problem and byproduct of the development. So what is the future of this problem? For young couples and parents who are concerned with this problem, they're in the midst of a very critical period of their career. So for these parents and couples, they're bringing up their kids who are very young, and this problem is particularly pronounced in medium-sized and big cities because they don't have time to pick up the kids after school. However, the kids will leave school at 3:30. So you see the time before 3:30, kids are studying at school and the responsibility lies with the schools. But after 3:30, it's time for kids to come back to the families and stay at home. But because of this mismatch between work time and school time, there is a huge problem and concern for these young couples and parents. And this is a growing pain and a problem for our education. Regarding this problem, the Minister of Education takes it very seriously. Last year, the Minister of Education issued a notice to address this problem. Over the past year, this problem has to some extent eased. According to the information I have learned, 25 provinces have issued notices regulating relevant measures and policies regarding this problem. Based on the practices of the past year, we have explored some effective practices to address this problem. For instance, in Shanghai, this problem is very pronounced. It's a huge metropolis where there is a huge number of young couples and parents. Shanghai municipality requires that school care should be made available to all kids from 3:30 to 5 p.m. And teachers who provide this kind of services will have entitlements and relevant compensations from schools. In Shanghai and Beijing, from 3:30 to 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., time should be made available for after-school services, which is especially designated for extracurricular activities. And for every student, they will have a grant of 700 to 900 yuan per year. And in Nanjing and other big cities, they are launching a flexible time schedule for school completion. So that means students can leave school depending on their flexible time arrangements, and the schools will provide relevant after-school care and services. In Guangxi province, they are leveraging community-based services and resources to provide after-school care and services. So you can see that there are different approaches and different strengths of the different approaches. And I hope that each locality can follow their own path based on their own circumstances. Going forward, what we're going to do is to take stock of the experiences and best practices and replicate these practices across the country. Second, we will also formulate relevant policies regarding the 3:30 p.m. problem. There are a lot of policy obstacles. When school ends at 3:30, and teachers will dedicate their times to marking homework and improving themselves. So from 3:30 to 5 p.m., the burden for teachers will be increased. So how to increase that, how to address that problem, and how to distribute the burden of work and address the employment issues, and these are all important topics for us to address going forward. In this process, some new problems may crop up. We have to follow closely the new developments in the education sector. For instance, some people suggest that schools shouldn't have monopoly over this issue. They have to channel social and private resources into addressing this problem. So we need more thinking and reflections. Given the problems, we have to clean up the issues and address the problems. As you mentioned just now, we have a haphazard development and growth of those private tutoring institutions. I think we need policies and regulations to bring these issues and institutions under regulation. And the good suggestions and best practices of different provinces have to be implemented and put into practice. And through strenuous efforts, we can address this problem. And the young couples and parents regard the policy and efforts of the government as a very good reward to the society. Thank you. In the beginning of this year, the government issued some policies regarding the development of teachers and faculty. How do we improve the sense of happiness and sense of belonging for the faculty and the teachers? What measures will the Ministry of Education take in regard with this problem? Well, these are very good questions, and you've posed very nice questions to me. In the beginning of this year, the central government and the State Council issued opinions on improving the teaching staff and faculty of schools. And this is a very seminal document. First, after the 19th CPPCC National Congress, this is the first document that the State Council has issued in promoting educational modernization and improving the quality of the education that lives up to the expectations of the people. So this is a seminal and landmark document. Secondly, this document has comprehensively addressed the theoretical and practical problems facing faculty development. It is fair to say that this is a document that has ushered in a new era for our educational undertaking. On the other hand, it has identified the key problems and made important arrangements for education in a new era. For instance, the sense of belonging and the status of the teachers, and we have relevant policies and measures. So this is a seminal document that is launching a new paradigm for our education. And we have to seriously study this document and make sure that this document can become a very important guideline for educational modernization in China. This document has drawn widespread attention from the society, and teachers appreciate this document and are warmly encouraged by this document. I would like to say thank you to journalists. Following the issuance of the document, you have made extensive coverage and reporting of the document, and your hard work is very important. And this demonstrates the attachment of the teachers to education and their dedication to our education. The implementation of this document is a very important task right now to elevate the status of teachers and to make teaching a plum job. We have to do the following 6 things. We have to work on the following 6 fronts. Number 1, we have to elevate the status of teachers and increase the compensation to teachers. We have to make sure that teachers play a very important role in the socialist modernization process. Teachers play an irreplaceable role in this process. We have to clarify the functions and roles of teachers. Secondly, we have to clarify and define their functions and their roles. They provide public services. Third, for publicly funded secondary and primary schools, we have to safeguard their status from a legal point of view. So this is what I mean by elevating their status. By increasing the compensation, I think it is very important to increase the salary and compensation benefits. We have to make sure that for primary and secondary school teachers, their compensation is not lower or higher than the salary for public servants in the locality. We have to increase the compensation for rural teachers. For impoverished regions, we have to increase our subsidies and grants. We also have to make sure that the supervision is implemented to make sure that all these policies are followed through to produce effective results. Second, we have to revamp the staffing quota and mechanisms. We have to revamp the retirement and relevant qualifications mechanisms for teachers. So we need to reform the relevant institutions and mechanisms. Third, it is important to foster a good teacher education system to improve the qualities of our future teachers. We need to foster and develop teachers who can meet the demands of the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation.
用对教师的这个提高他们的地位啊待遇，最好的是要使用他们。
It is very important to give full play to the role of teachers, to provide suggestions and guidance to our students and our country. So we have to make sure that the teachers have the best shot in realizing their potentials and values. So teacher development is very important in giving full play to their values. We have to give more quota to high-level teachers, and the staffing quota should be increased. So we need to revamp the systems to fully leverage the mechanisms to contribute to the realization of this goal. Fifth, we need to provide financial support in terms of hardware and also software as well. We have to safeguard the lawful rights and the interests of teachers. We have a lot of teachers working in private institutions and institutions jointly funded by Chinese and foreign capital, so we have to safeguard their rights and interests according to law. For teachers working in the impoverished regions, we need to provide housing so that they can rest assured with a very enabling environment to contribite to education in the rural area. So we have to protect their interests. Lastly, we need to foster an environment in which everyone respects the teaching profession. The teaching profession is a sacred profession. Every nation, every family, every individual who disrespects teachers should be punished. So we have to create an environment in which everyone respects teachers, and also an environment in which teachers themselves respect themselves. So these are the 6 suggestions I come up with regarding your problem. Thank you.
That is Minister of Education Chen Baosheng there taking questions from reporters. Let's talk about education in China with our guests, Professor Liao and Mr. Furrer. Earlier, we actually talked a little bit about reform in education system. Mr. Furrer raised some brilliant proposals like promoting curiosity and critical thinking and fieldworks. I think those are terrific points. I couldn't agree with them more. But the Minister of Education actually mentioned another set of practical problems here in China that's faced by a lot of parents. First is the 3:30 p.m. problem. The school is off by 3:30, but underage students couldn't go home. They have to stay supervised, and a lot of parents are not off work yet. And that created a huge problem. You are a parent yourself. Do you encounter that kind of problem?
My daughter is the first year at primary school. We actually I mean, it's not 3:30. It's like I guess it's 3:50 something. But still, we have this problem. I have to have my parents to
take care of her.
After. So here, I mean, bring me to thinking that how the gap between a regional policy measure, and the original intention of the policy can be, how big the gap can be between original intention of a policy and I mean, the effect of its implementation. For example, I believe that the 3.5 o'clock requirement is originally intended to have to relieve the children of their
the original intention is pretty good.
But you have to take into account some other issues. First, who's going to take care of those children? I mean, in China, it's usually that both parents are working, and who's going to take care of them? And second, as long as it's still a highly competitive environment, I mean, parents will tend to use these spared like 1 or 2 hours to send the children to other institutions, education institutions, to still do those kind of learning and education. So, education is very important. Education is closely related to many other aspects of the life. So we cannot just have a policy, have a measure that we are trying to be good to children, to parents, but we have to take into account those, correlated and those complex situation, and to have a policy more realistic and really can benefit in those that is intended to benefit.
So you see a big gap between the intention of the good policy and then the consequences of implementing it. What about you? What's your reaction after seeing what's been said?
I think the time factor is very important, right? I mean, students are off at 3:30 like that. What are they going to do, right? Mostly going to cram more classes, learn more like that. But are they happier? No. So the thing is about happy children, right? Happy children are dedicated children, engaged children, critical thinking, curious and stuff like that. So it's an education in the new era. Of course, the whole reform thing with the schools, the teachers is very important. They don't have a monopoly.
Exactly.
You need to hear what other people have to say. It's not just I hear, but I don't listen, right? So it's basically what the minister talked about, to empower the teachers, to look at the functions, to reevaluate, to respect from the students, respect the teacher, but vice versa as well,
Yeah, the second point that the minister mentioned is how to make teachers happy, because a lot of teachers in China are underpaid, but they are so important in promoting education in this country. They're so important in teaching the next generation of workforce of the country depend on them. What's your reaction after seeing that? Do you think it's good news, coming from the minister for the teachers?
Yes. Definitely. And my understanding is that we should have a more balanced, image portrait for teachers. On the one hand, we need to raise their salary. We need to have better paid so that they can be more comfortable and can be more dedicated to their education. And on the other hand, I'm not quite for that kind of tune that portray teachers as sacrifice for everything, that they should, because they're teachers, they should have a higher standard in terms of their behavior, in terms of devotion. It's still a job. They have their normal needs, they have their normal feelings. So I don't think we should, raise this kind of judging standard too high. That could turn out to be a burden on many teachers.
We have a couple more minutes to go. Final statements from both of you on what's happened today and that speech we've just heard. Mr. Furrer first.
Oh, okay. Me first.
40 seconds.
Okay. So it's basically, it's all about a more harmonious society, or ecological harmonious society, which makes people happier, the economy more open, inclusive, transparent, and that's also a good signal for the foreign business community to come here and engage and to stay, right? Because that kind of predictability makes you trust into the system, So just, of course, the sheer number of proposals, it's just raises a question that is it actually implementable, But I think China is just on its right track.
Great. Professor?
Well, as the very first CPPCC committee after the 19th Party Congress, and the very first one after we entered the new year, I really have much expectation for their agenda in the next 2 weeks. And I think we need to be more concerned about this balanced development for China, balanced development for the world, and also I'm quite interested in the discussions in the weekend for the CPPCC. That could be, say, a warm-up for the NPC meeting next week.
Thank you very much for staying with us throughout the past couple of hours. Thank you for sharing your perspectives and analysis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the 13th National People's Congress will hold a preliminary session on Sunday and will elect a presidium to conduct its upcoming session. The NPC will then hold a press conference on the agenda of the first plenary session of the 13th NPC, which opens on Monday. CGTN will bring viewers a closer look at China's political season, so stay tuned for that. And that's going to do it for this special coverage on the CPPCC opening ceremony. Thank you for staying with us. Bye for now.